Preds.
The Bears are who we thought they were.
The Bears.
The Bears.
I am the great Cornholio.
We'll see what happens.
The playoffs?
See, Sean McDonough, Jay Villas. Goats.
Can you play a song? Something cool. Put my mic on!
I'm calling both games.
Oh, baby! Are you serious? Goes down the field for Smith. Oh, he got it!
Seattle. We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
Welcome back to the Mike's Madness YouTube channel, and in this video, I'm starting kind of a series, if you will. So, many of you guys know that the NCAA tournament, among pretty much every other sport, has been put on hold. But specifically, the NCAA tournament was canceled. Not postponed to a later date, but canceled. And as I've said in a couple other videos or in person, that was very disappointing for me. If you know me at all, you know that I'm a huge basketball guy, especially college basketball. And so what I was thinking about, a couple of these other people have, excuse me one second, I just moved the phone closer to me. That may be a weird sound that you just heard, but I've heard other people doing like simulations and stuff like that. And I thought maybe that would be a cool idea to do myself. And so in this first video, I'm going to have 3 videos this week. The first one is going to be, getting some of the simulations of I'm going to do the conference tournaments first. And so I'll put the link to the website that I'm using to simulate the games in the description below. But there's like so much that I got to talk about here first that I don't know where to get to. But, let's see. So yeah, I'm going to simulate all the conference tournaments first. And in this first video, I'm going to get some of the smaller ones out of the way. And then in the second one coming on Wednesday, we're going to get some other ones done. And then on Friday, we'll get the Power 5 and then 2 other of the bigger conferences as well. Then, depending on what happens this weekend, I might get a video out with what teams are making like the field, quote unquote. And I'm using the latest projection, like a combination of the latest projections that I've seen on the internet before they canceled the tournament. So getting into this is the simulated tournament that I'm having in the Midwest. You see here that's the projected ones kind of that were up before the NCAA decided to cancel. That was the Midwest. This is the East. You see there, and again, with the way that some of these simulations go, some of the teams that are on like the 16 seed or stuff like that, who get the automatic bids for winning their conference, that might change. And while we take a look here at the projections, I want to get into how I'm basically doing this simulation. So I'm taking the teams in the conference tournament from where we left off. Now that does not include that does not include the Ivy League. With having Yale, that was garbage. What they did was they canceled the Ivy League tournament and just awarded it to Yale, the championship. I'm not going by that. I'm going to simulate that as well because I think that's kind of garbage. But anyway, what I'm doing is I'll put the website link in the description of the video. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the simulation of the teams. I'm simulating it 3 times and taking the average score, the average scores, and that's like the quote-unquote final score. And I'm using the rounding up and rounding down rule with this 5 above, you round up and all that good stuff. So the America East tournament, this is where it kind of left off before they canceled everything. So it was Vermont and Hartford in the final. And again, I'm picking up where we left off, so I'm not simulating the whole thing from the beginning. I'm picking up from wherever they left off before everything got canceled. So with that being said, we go into the completed simulation, and Vermont had won 69-54. So Vermont will get the automatic bid out of the America East Conference. Take a look at the Big Sky Conference where we left off. We had, again, only 3 games were done. Where we had Eastern Washington against Sacramento State coming up, Montana and Idaho State, and then we had Northern Colorado and Southern Utah. And again, these smaller conferences, you'll see these are the conferences that they only get one team in, the team that wins the conference. There's not like a there's not an at-large bid that these conferences get. This is just the smaller conferences that get one team in, and the team that gets in is the team that wins the conference. So that's why these conference tournaments are so big, because it means a lot to, again, like, for example, you see here Idaho State beat Northern Arizona before they canceled everything. For all we know, had this played out in reality, Idaho State could have gone in on an unbelievable tear and won the whole thing and gone into the tournament. So, knocking out the top 3 teams that were pretty good in the conference in, Northern Colorado, Montana, and Eastern Washington. But again, that's exactly it. These smaller conferences only get one team in, and it's the team that wins the conference tournament. And if you look back on the first slide that I had at the beginning of the video, those were all the conference tournaments that had already completed or that were already finished before they canceled everything. So I'm not going to go back and re-simulate those. I'm just going to go with what happened because, again, what happened happened. So I'm just simulating everything from where we left off. So again, the Weber State, I don't know how you say it, Sacramento State game, the Northern Arizona Idaho State game, and the Southern Utah Idaho game. Those are not simulations. That's just where we left off, and it'll be the same throughout. So we take a look at the completed simulation, and I was kind of surprised at the results from this because Southern Utah had come out and run the table, and again, this is not. This may not be the most realistic thing. This may not be, again, had this played out in reality, it may have been a completely different, scenario. It may have played out completely differently, and it most likely will have. But, this is just something for, some people like this kind of stuff. And again, I'm just such a basketball guy that I love putting together brackets and all that stuff. So, again, it's just another way to get some kind of content out there. And again, as we take a look at the Big West tournament where we left off, no games were played in this. Some people may be wondering why I didn't come out with like a coronavirus and how it affected sports video. Well, I'll get into that because the reason I didn't do that is because I was literally sitting in my dorm room last week from like Tuesday till Thursday. Whenever I could have had a chance, whenever I would have had a chance rather to record a video about it, literally 5 minutes later, something new would have come out. So honestly, in recording the whole video, going through that whole process of a whole day, I would have, been putting out information that by the time the information would have been out there, it would have been old already. That is how quick and how much stuff happened last week. I mean, I think I saw this tweet that said something like, the NBA it was like March Madness or something had gotten canceled. And, that's crazy because it's the first time that's ever happened. But the tweet said, March Madness just got canceled and it's only like the 6th most surprising thing that's happened in the past hour. And it's the truth. So many different things that happen throughout the course of those 3 days that taking the time to record a video and getting it all out there, it would have been, by the time I would have gotten the video out there, all the information would have been, relatively old. So instead of wasting the time and doing all that, I just decided to, you know, I don't know. I just, went onto Twitter. And again, you can follow my Twitter at Mike's Madness MU. Again, I'll be using that a lot more since I'm not going to be on the air for the foreseeable future. And I don't know if we're ever going back to campus. I don't know if I'm ever going back to school this semester, which is unfortunate, but, got to do what you got to do to make sure nobody's getting sick and everything like that. So taking a look at the Big West tournament completed simulation, we had, not too many upsets other than Hawaii making it to the final, but Cal State Northridge was the winner in the simulation. And again, the final scores are decided based on taking the game, simulating it 3 times, and taking the average scores of each of the teams. And again, like I said a couple other times, I'll put the link to the website in the description below. And there's a couple options you can do, like hide player stats, play-by-play, or home court advantage. And for the purpose of this simulation, I don't really care too much about, player stats and play-by-play. It's, I'm not going to be doing a play-by-play of a simulation score. It's just, that seems kind of dull. But I did take off the home court advantage because these conference tournaments, and even in the NCAA tournament, it is neutral site action, so there's no home court advantage really. But the Ivy League tournament, now again, this was canceled and they awarded Yale the championship, which I'm not going to go off of that because that's kind of, because eventually everything else got canceled too. So if I'm going to simulate everything else, I might as well just go ahead and simulate this. And here's the thing. You never know how this could have played out if they would have played it and given these teams a chance. Because again, this Ivy League is normally falls under one of those conferences where it's an at-large, or one team gets in. I think there may have been 1 or 2 times where Yale and Harvard got in, but that was only when one of the teams were really, really good and like top 25 caliber, so they got the at-large anyway. But usually you don't see an at-large bid from this conference. It's only the conference winner. So going to the completed simulation, we had, I was actually quite surprised. The simulation scores had Penn knocking off Yale and Princeton knocking off Harvard, and then Princeton going on and winning in the final. And you see there some close games, 71-69 in the final game and 75-72 in the Princeton-Harvard game. So, again, this is just a simulation. It may not be completely accurate. As I said before, and in a couple of the other ones, this could have played out so many different ways had it actually been played out in reality. And taking a look at the simulation and you see these close scores, that just goes to show you how different and how many different ways this could have played out. Look, I don't see how Yale would have lost by that amount of points to Penn in any realistic standard. But I'm just, I'm not going to totally disregard that for one case and say, oh, well, that would have never happened, so we can't do that. I'm just going and, if I'm gonna be fair and I'm gonna be thorough, because if I'm gonna do the simulation for one conference all the way through, it's only fair that I do it for the rest of them. It wouldn't be fair for me to say, oh, well, Yale would have won that game. I'm gonna, that's unfair because now I'm not really simulating it 100% the same way. I'm not doing it 100% the same way. I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of it, but I'm not doing it the same way that I am for every other thing. And so it becomes less of a complete simulation as it does become more of what I think would have happened and my predictions. So yeah, Princeton was the winner in the simulation. They get the automatic bid. And then we take a look at the MAAC tournament. I think it stands for Mid-Atlantic Athletic Conference. I don't really know, but again, here we go. This was where we left off, and again, you see some of the teams, some of the game. This is the games that were already played. And if you're an avid sports fan, you will point out right away that I misspelled Siena, and in the next slide you'll see that I fixed it. So, because I figured that out as well, I was like, oh shoot, I misspelled it. That's not good, but oh well. And you see Iona in the MAAC, and kind of an interesting turn of events happened recently with them as they hired former Louisville coach Rick Pitino. And again, if you are a avid sports fan and a college basketball fan, you know that Rick Pitino has a certain history. And so I saw the headline that, he may be coming back to college basketball and as a coach. And I wasn't really sure that he would, be at a big school. I was kind of questioning that. I was not really sure what team would really want to hire him, but then I figured out later yesterday that it was Iona, and I was like, oh, okay, not really not a big time basketball school. So I would have found it kind of odd if a big Power Five or the Big East or American Athletic Conference school would have hired him. And as I'm looking at this, I see another mistake in that, Idaho State is there instead of whoever won in that Niagara Marist game. And that's because I copied and pasted it from another one. So I believe I fixed that in the next one as well. Let's take a look here. Yeah, it was Niagara that won that game. Idaho State was not in this conference. But as you see, Ryder was the winner in the simulation. I did fix the Siena misspelling. And again, you see some close games here, and that's not necessarily a false simulation. As you see, Niagara and Marist, that was a 2-point game, and that was not a simulated game. You see St. Peter's and Iona, that was a real score as well. That was not a simulated score. The Ryder St. Peter's game, that was simulated, but that's a 2-point game. Siena Quinnipiac, that's a 2-point game. And then the Siena Ryder game, that was close. And, again, that's where I look at these and I'm saying, okay, this is a somewhat respectable simulation. You're not having like a 20-point a 20-point difference in the final game, because again, that's not going to happen. So I did try out a couple different simulations beforehand, and this was the one, this website, and again, like I said, like 3 million times, I'll put it in the description. But this was the one that I thought was the most accurate one. And, Ryder gets that automatic bid. And I believe this is the last one, the MEAC, which I think stands for Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, I'm guessing. I'm not really sure. But, take a look again. This is where we left off before everything got canceled. And, I think, I'm trying to remember, the projection I think had NC Central winning it, or either NC Central or Norfolk State. But I don't think any of those teams won it. I think it was pretty surprising, actually, that Morgan State had gone on and won it in the simulation. And if you see that Morgan State Beth Cook game, you'll see that is a double overtime game. And so you may be wondering how in the world an overtime game happens in a simulation. Well, as I said before, I take the average scores of the teams after 3 simulations. And if you were thinking about that at all, you might be wondering, okay, well, what happens if they have the same average? Well, that's where I get the quote-unquote overtime game. And so what I do is I take a 4th simulation for 1 overtime period. I take that score, add it to whatever the average score was after 3 games, and then we have I take the 4th simulation score plus the average, add it together, divide that by 8, and add it to the average score after 3 simulations. and then we get that one. And if it's still the same, I do that same thing again for a second quote-unquote overtime period. And that's what the simulation quote-unquote spat out, if you will. And again, as you can see, there were some close games. A 1-point game in the Norfolk State, North Carolina A&T game, a 3-point game in the NC Central Morgan State game, and then you have that double overtime game in the Beth Cook Morgan State game. And again, if you want to run some simulations yourself, that would be cool as well. But I'll definitely be doing more of these kinds of videos because I've already simulated all of the conference tournaments, and so I'll just kind of be putting the videos out throughout the week, and then we will get the quote unquote simulation selection Sunday, if you will. And I realize it might be kind of a weird thing to do, but it's just something to do to not substitute, but supplement for some kind of sport content, because I don't really know if I can do without sports. I mean, it's like day 4 or 5 without sports, and I'm kind of losing my mind a little bit. As you can see, I've been doing, I've taken it to do Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference tournament simulations, so I'm definitely not handling it well. But again, those are all the simulations I'll get to in the first video. In the second video, we're going to be doing some the Atlantic 10, the Conference USA, and then some other smaller conference tournaments as well. So I thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, go to the comment section to put some feedback in there. Your thoughts on if you like this simulation deal. I'm just gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't get the best feedback. Because again, as I said in a couple other videos, I'm not doing this to go viral with every video. I'm just doing it because it's something I like to do. I'm having fun with it, and I'm just doing it just to do it. So yeah, again, thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, thumbs up and all that good stuff. Subscribe for more. And I'm not a big YouTube guy, but I believe there's like a little bell symbol after you subscribe, and I think it'll give you like a notification every time a new video comes out. I'm not too sure about that, but I believe something along those lines, or there's something like that. But you can do that as well, and comment, subscribe, like, all that good stuff, and we'll be back in the next video.